In St. Paul schools, 72% of the students are minorities, and that's why employees are required to take part in a racial reduce the achievement gap between minority and white students. It even has its own web page with a message from Superintendent Valeria Silva.
If we are going to save public education, we had to deal with what we have in front of us, and race matters.
One part of the program is this survey called White Privilege. It has some inside and outside the district raising eyebrows at some of the questions.
I was offended, deeply offended.
We showed the survey to Chris Fields, a current employee with the state Republican Party who also works with public school students. He says the survey sends a bad message.
All right, the debate is nothing new. It's been going on for decades, maybe centuries. But it was recently reignited by the events in Ferguson, Missouri. The fans flamed by activists seeking to line their pockets, and given new air by a recent article by a website that has been unprofitable since its inception and has been labeled one of the 5 most liberal-leaning sites along the web. But to their credit, Salon is getting a lot of eyeballs from their article entitled White Privilege, an Insidious Virus That's Eating America from Within. Let the arena be joined. Welcome to MidPoint, New York attorney and one who has real trouble letting his opinions be known. We found that out before. The quiet man, Adam Thompson. And progressive political consultant, president of Bannon Communications Research, a company that works with Democratic candidates and labor unions, Brad Bannon. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, Brad, seeing as Adam is always afraid and he is always very, very mild-mannered when it comes to his opinions, I'm going to start with you first time out. When you hear that title itself, an insidious virus that's eating America from within, is that hyperbole or is that correct?
Well, I think the term white privilege is loaded. But what I do think is that black students don't have the same opportunities as white students do. I mean, most kids are going back to school now or go back to school next week. Most states spend a lot more money on majority white schools than they do majority minority schools. Today is Women's Equity Day. Black and Latino women who work in the same jobs as white women earn less money. And you mentioned Ferguson as an example. 67% of the people who live in Ferguson are black. But of the 54 police officers who work in Ferguson, only 3 are black. 92% of the traffic stops that Ferguson police officers make have black drivers. And 82% of those traffic stops that result in searches, black drivers get searched by a margin of 93%. Even though black drivers in Ferguson who get stopped are less likely to have illegal substances in their possession than white drivers. That isn't fair. Again, privilege is a loaded term, but I don't think black people and Latinos have the same opportunity to get ahead in the United States. And I think that's bad for minority people, it's bad for white people, it's bad for the United States. We are slowly becoming, by 2050, we will be a majority minority country. There will be more blacks, Latinos, and Asians living in the United States in 2015 than whites. And we're going to have to find a way to address these inequities because that will be the biggest challenge we have to face in the next few decades.
Okay, I have to ask you a quick question, yes or no on this. The question I asked, is indeed this a virus eating away America from within? You believe that?
Yes, I do. I think it is a virus. Yes.
Okay, Adam, your turn next to go ahead and respond.
You know, white privilege is a very, very bad term. Time it comes to an end. It's nonsensical, basically. Is there racism in the past in this country? Absolutely. Does it exist even today? Absolutely. But is there a white privilege? The answer is no. You want to talk about where there's a real term that should be thrown around. It shouldn't be white privilege. It should be a class disadvantage. I think that's a proper way to put all this into perspective. This isn't a white or black or yellow or green or brown issue. It is an issue concerning race war, class warfare. In this country, the difference between the super rich and elite and the powerful and everyone that drops off after that is where the real problem lies. And I think that the issue has been changed so much that people are brainwashed into believing it's a white versus black or versus brown or versus yellow issue when it isn't. I can only use myself as an example because the best understanding you have is from personal experience. I grew up in a single-parent household, lived in poverty my whole life. My mom was a telephone operator, barely making over minimum wage to support me and my brother. We never got any advantage in life at any point. Went to the poorest schools, went through everything that could be as difficult as possible. But all we heard growing up was make a better life, education, education, learn, 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 do the best you can. And we tried as best as we could. There were no handouts along the way. We were lucky to get student loans, do whatever we could, work while we could to go through the basic education process in school and in college. And then fortunately I got into law school and it went from there. But it comes from hard work that I think is available to everyone.
Okay, I'm gonna stop here for a sec because you're right about hard work. I don't think anyone's going to argue a lot of what you said here, but I'm going to point this out. There is an author called Peggy McIntosh who came out with the 26 points on what she calls the daily effects of privilege. And we're not going to read all 26 here, but she comes up to things such as, I can be sure that my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. If a traffic cop pulls me over, or if the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race, and I can choose blemish, coverage, or bandages in flesh color and have them more or less match my skin. Isn't she correct in many ways, though, that there is a privilege feeling that this is just the norm? And maybe that's the biggest issue here. Adam, first to you.
I don't think so. You know, a privilege, first of all, it's not a right. You know, it's something that's afforded to certain people. When you hear a privilege, you know, it's something that makes you think, oh, what privilege do I have being white? And if you ask most whites this question, again, it goes back to class. They're going to say, I have no privilege. I'm working every day doing the best I can to make ends meet.
But the point of McIntosh is, though, the point of McIntosh is, though, simply because you are white, these are the privileges that you enjoy regardless.
But you don't. That's the point I'm saying. There's this myth that there's certain privileges that you get because you're white, and you really don't. The things that a lot of these articles bring up are really minor things that are really insignificant. What's important is your ability to function and do things in daily life that all of us should have as a right. There's a difference between a right and a privilege. And when you talk to economically challenged white people, for example, about what these privileges are, they don't get the benefits of any of these so-called privileges. They're not getting access to these better schools or these better job opportunities. They're facing the same struggles as any minorities facing day in and day out.
All right.
It's a class of people getting these opportunities.
Brad, Brad, I've only got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to give it to you. Okay, if you could keep it short, because I also want Adam to answer back.
I disagree with Adam. We have a race and a class problem in this country. If you look at professional people who work in professional jobs, whites who work in professional jobs get paid a lot more than blacks and Latinos who work in executive jobs.
Then how do we fight that? How do you fight that?
Well, how you fight it, I think it starts at the beginning. Education. The show started with education. School districts spend a lot more money on majority white schools than majority black schools. They offer better courses in majority white schools. In a lot of majority black schools, students can't even take calculus or advanced algebra. We have to equalize the learning opportunities and start there and work our way up.
Okay.
We have made a lot of progress, but we still have a long way to go till we get to racial equity in this country.
Adam, I got a minute. Your turn. Last shot.
He just made my point that it's rich versus white. Rich versus poor. It's not a white versus a minority thing. If you go to areas that have better schools, it's usually because they're paying higher taxes, and the higher taxes, they demand better schools with more opportunities at those schools. You want to change things, change the culture in the United States. Make it across the board that education's improved for everybody, same educational opportunities. Once education's fixed, everything moves from there. Everyone will have better opportunities, better education leads to better jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very easy thing to fix.
Each of you get a 10-second shot here. Has affirmative action failed? Adam, you first.
I don't think it works because it leaves a lot of bad feelings in a lot of people. And if you got the grades, you earn it, you should get in. It's that simple.
Brad, you get the last shot then. Has affirmative action failed?
I think affirmative action is not the issue. I think the issue is that blacks don't have the same opportunities as white people to get ahead in life. And unless we address that, starting at the education level, even in the same school districts, white schools get more money than black schools. Same taxpayers, but blacks get a lot less facilities.
Okay, we're going to have to call it there because we're all out of time. Brad Bannon, Adam Thompson, gentlemen, thank you so much for a spirited discussion. We will be back in touch again.
Thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Later this hour, News Call takes us to Ferguson, Missouri. A comprehensive look at how the networks and local stations covered the Michael Brown funeral.